It seems that professional bodies are unaware that their status is recognized and entrenched in BBBEE legislation. The great news is that the legislation does make funding available for professional body services when it comes to provision to fund a range of such services provided by those professional bodies, and that range includes the following: the funding of the provision for work experience required by professional bodies to complement qualifications which have been completed prior to the awarding of professional designations. The funding required for the processing of an application for professional designation and recognition by a professional body. The funding for continuous professional development, which is always a requirement for re-registration for a professional designation from a professional body. And the funding for the re-registration with a professional body periodically. It is important that each professional body understands that there are clauses in the current legislative framework around broad-based black economic empowerment which encourages professional bodies to charge for its services. For example, where they provide the assessment and the professional designation services to a professional practitioner who works in a particular industry covered by that professional body's activities. Allowance is also made for what happens after designation is granted to a professional practitioner by a professional body, namely where a company funds CPD or continuous professional or lifelong development for an employee who is designated as a professional practitioner. These considerations permitting professional bodies to charge and companies to recover those expenses as recognition for scorecard points are accommodated as follows by Code Series 300 of the BBBEE legislative framework, which was gazetted in May 2019. Categories C of the learning matrix allow for expenditure on the attainment of recognized or structured experiential learning in the workplace, which is required after the achievement of a qualification formally assessed by a professional body reflecting professional knowledge and experience formally recognized through registration or licensing. From an expenditure perspective, therefore, the following clauses directly relate to the funding of a professional body's designation activities for 18.1 and 18.2 employees, and importantly also for those 18.1 and 18.2 employees who may be disabled. It is important to distinguish between an 18.1 learner who is a current employee of the company as opposed to an 18.2 learner who is in the labor pool in the future to be employed by the company, who might be on a current 18.2 learnership, apprenticeship or internship. Clause 2.1.1.1, which reads that 3.5% of payroll should be spent on learning programs specified in the learning program matrix, and in this instance we're talking about learning program in category C for black people as a percentage of the leviable amount. Where this is successfully done, a total of 6 scorecard points can be earned. Clause 2.1.1.3, which reads that 0.3% of payroll should be spent on learning programs specified in the learning program matrix, again category C in this instance, for black employees with disabilities as a percentage of the leviable amount. Where this is successfully done, a total of 4 scorecard points can be earned. In addition to counting expenditure on learnerships, internships or apprenticeships entered into for the purpose of covering professional body assessment activities and training and work-related requirements, Code Series 300 gazetted in May 2019 also allows companies which spend money on processing its employees who qualify through the professional body's application and designation processes, and thereafter where the company pays for those employees to participate in required CPD or continuous professional development for re-registration processes with a professional body. To recover some of those expenses, including professional body registration, CPD and re-registration fees, to a maximum of 25% of skills development expenditure which is paid by the company. Clause 5.3 of Code Series 300 restricts this recovery for these expenses to 25% of skills development expenditure. So 6.3% of payroll every year is the amount of expenditure, and 25% of that 6.3% is what can be spent as follows. Skills development expenditure arising from informal and workplace learning programs or from category F and G learning programs, and in this category, the registration with a professional body, continuous professional development and re-registration is covered. However, this expenditure cannot represent more than 25% of the total value of skills development expenditure. So, in summation, therefore, professional bodies need to understand the value proposition to be put to companies employing individuals who constitute the community of professional practitioners which professional bodies are ultimately interested in and responsible for and will target. In simple terms, that value proposition is that any company dependent on their measured entity status, when looking to be retained or to become a new supplier to another measured entity in turn, should strategically plan to ensure that as many employees as possible who are capable of being recognized as professional practitioners obtain a designation from a professional body and participate in ongoing continuous professional development, because spending money on those benefits will serve the company very well in terms of its ultimate BBBEE scorecard points, thus ensuring the company of the best measured entity status attainable. The proviso is that the plan, when implemented, must take account of the maximum spend amount which the company has available from its skills development spend on these activities, namely a maximum of 25% of all skills development spend, as well as 3.8% of payroll for professional body assessment and work-based experience.